There's a moment in everyone's life, sometimes quiet, sometimes loud, when we look in the mirror and wonder how we got here. Not physically, not even professionally, but deep down, emotionally and existentially. We ask ourselves, is this who I really am? Is this the life I set out to live? That moment can feel like a crisis. But it's also the start of something beautiful. Because it's only when we allow ourselves to be honest, really honest, that we create space to rebuild. But before we can rebuild ourselves, we have to ask a fundamental question. Why? Not, why am I broken? Not, why did this happen to me? But rather, why do I want to rebuild? Why do I want success at all? You see, most people jump straight to what they need to do. Wake up earlier, read more, go to the gym, hustle harder. Or they obsess over how they'll get there, networking, branding, strategies, courses, certifications. But almost no one pauses long enough to start with why. And if you don't start with why, you're just rearranging furniture in a burning house. You're changing the outside but not the foundation. And eventually, it all collapses again. Purpose isn't a buzzword. It's not a tagline for your LinkedIn bio. It's a personal, emotional connection to something bigger than results. It's the internal compass that helps you navigate storms. Without it, the journey towards success becomes a chase, endless, exhausting, and often empty. But with it, the journey becomes meaningful, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. The mistake many people make is thinking that purpose has to be grand, like it needs to be some earth-shattering mission to change the world. But that's not true. Purpose isn't about scale. It's about clarity. It can be as simple as, I want to become the kind of person my children can look up to. Or I want to live a life I'm proud of when no one's watching. Or even, I want to prove to myself that I can do hard things. That's enough. Because once you know why you're doing something, the how becomes clearer. The what becomes more aligned. And the obstacles become more bearable. Rebuilding yourself is a deeply personal process. But it must begin with your why, or you'll keep chasing other people's definitions of success. Think about it. How often do we strive for things simply because the world told us we should? A certain job title, a specific salary, a lifestyle that looks good on social media. But those things don't always reflect what truly matters to us. They're noise. And when the noise gets too loud, we forget our own voice. Starting with why is about turning down that noise. It's about getting quiet enough to hear what your life is really asking of you. That's not easy. Most of us are afraid of silence, afraid of what we might hear. But the truth is, the silence is where the answers live. And here's the thing, your why can change. It should, because you're not the same person you were 5 years ago. You've grown. You've been hurt, you've learned, and with that comes the need to redefine what drives you. Rebuilding yourself isn't about returning to who you used to be. It's about discovering who you are now and who you're capable of becoming next. But that process requires vulnerability. It requires courage. It's much easier to keep doing what we've always done, even if it isn't working, than to admit we need to change direction. And yet, every extraordinary transformation in history, whether personal or collective, started with someone having the guts to say, this isn't working. I need to find a better way. So, what does it look like to find your why? It starts with reflection, not just once, but consistently. It means taking time away from the constant motion of life to ask, what matters most to me now? What kind of impact do I want to have? What do I want to stand for even when it's hard? It also means getting curious. Look at your past. When did you feel most alive? What were you doing? Who were you with? What were you fighting for? Often the clues to your purpose are buried in the moments you thought were insignificant, but when you look closer, you'll see the pattern, the thread, the why that's been whispering to you all along. And then once you have that clarity, everything starts to shift. You make different choices. You say no to things that don't align. You stop comparing your journey to someone else's highlight reel, and you start showing up with intention. That's when the rebuilding begins to mean something. You're not just putting yourself back together for appearances. You're becoming someone who lives on purpose, with purpose. Success, in the deepest sense, is not about what you accumulate. It's about what you contribute. It's about becoming someone others can count on, someone who inspires trust, someone who leads not just with skills, but with conviction. And conviction is born from clarity. Clarity comes from knowing your why. If you feel lost right now, don't panic. That feeling isn't a sign that you've failed. It's a sign that you're ready for something more. It's the invitation to rebuild. And that starts by remembering or discovering why you're here in the first place. Not for the trophies, not for the applause, but to live in alignment with the truth inside you, to build a life you don't need to escape from, to become someone you're proud of, even in the quiet moments no one sees. Rebuilding yourself for success starts not with action, but with intention. It starts not with doing, but with understanding. It starts when you stop chasing what looks good and start honoring what feels right. Start with why, everything else follows. We grow up believing that success is about addition. Add skills, add achievements, add followers, add money. It's a mindset of accumulation. But real transformation, real rebuilding, doesn't begin with adding. It begins with subtracting, letting go, breaking down. And that's the part most people avoid. There's something terrifying about tearing apart the version of ourselves we've grown used to. Even if it's not working anymore, even if it's causing us pain, we cling to it because it's familiar. But you can't step into a new future while dragging the weight of your past. You can't build a stronger version of yourself on a foundation that's cracked. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit that what once served you is no longer serving you now. We all carry layers, beliefs, habits, stories, roles we've adopted to fit in or protect ourselves. At some point, those layers become armor. And while armor might keep us safe, it also keeps us stuck. It prevents us from moving freely, from connecting deeply, from growing fully. Rebuilding begins when we dare to take that armor off. This isn't about weakness, it's about courage. Because letting go isn't passive, it's one of the most active, intentional things you'll ever do. It means being willing to disappoint people who benefited from the version of you that played small. It means being willing to face the discomfort of uncertainty. It means being honest with yourself about what's no longer aligned, even if it once defined you. That's the paradox. We often think we need to hold it all together to succeed, but sometimes we need to break. Not break down, but break open. Because in the breaking, there's clarity. In the breaking, there's space. In the breaking, we finally see the parts that need healing, not hiding. And yet we resist. We tell ourselves it's easier to patch things up, to fake it, to keep the facade alive. But you can't build something lasting on a lie. At some point, the truth demands to be heard. And the truth is this: growth requires release. It requires shedding the parts of you that were built to survive but not to thrive. Think about nature. Trees don't cling to dead leaves, they shed them when the season changes. Not because something went wrong, but because it's part of the process. Letting go isn't failure, it's evolution. And we are no different. You may have to let go of an identity that gave you status but no joy. You may have to leave a job that paid the bills but drained your soul. You may have to walk away from relationships that once felt like home but now feel like cages. That's hard. But the alternative is harder. Staying small to avoid the discomfort of change. Rebuilding isn't just about becoming something new. It's about releasing what no longer fits. Like carving a sculpture from a block of stone, you reveal the masterpiece, not by adding more, but by removing what. And this process is deeply personal. No one can do it for you. No one can tell you what to let go of. Only you know the quiet compromises you've made. Only you know the lies you've told yourself to keep going. Only you can name what you need to release in order to rise. But here's what's beautiful. When you do let go, when you finally drop what's been weighing you down, you feel it. Not just intellectually, but viscerally. There's a lightness, a freedom, a sense of possibility that wasn't there before. And suddenly you realize you weren't broken, you were buried under expectations, under pressure, under fear, And now, piece by piece, you're unearthing who you really are. This is not a quick fix. It's not glamorous. It's not something you post online with a catchy caption. It's quiet. It's messy. It happens in the small hours of the morning when doubt creeps in. It happens in hard conversations. It happens in the moments when you choose truth over comfort. But this is also where resilience is born. Because when you strip away what's false, what remains is unshakable. It's real. It's you. And from that place, you can build something that lasts. Something that reflects your values. Something that aligns with your purpose. Too often people chase external success to distract from internal pain. But success built on avoidance is fragile. It cracks under pressure. But when you've done the hard work of letting go, when you've faced the truth and made peace with it, you become steady, rooted. And that's when the real growth begins. Letting go also makes space for new things to enter your life. You can't receive with clenched fists. You can't create something new while clinging to what's outdated. But when you open up, when you release what you no longer need, you invite in relationships, opportunities, and ideas that match who you're becoming. This isn't just about personal transformation, it's about leadership. Because people don't follow those who appear perfect, they follow those who are real, who have the humility to admit when something's not working, who have the courage to evolve publicly, who model what it looks like to rebuild with intention. If you're in a season of breaking, you're not failing, you're being refined. The discomfort you feel isn't a sign you're off track. It's a sign you're being called to a deeper level of truth. Lean into it. Trust it. Let it shape you. Because on the other side of letting go is power. The power to choose differently. To show up fully. To build something rooted in who you truly are, not who you are pretending to be. So if you're going to rebuild yourself for success, don't start by adding more, start by subtracting. Break the patterns, break the silence, break the illusion. Let go of what's holding you back, and you'll be surprised by what rises in its place. This isn't the end, it's the beginning. And beginnings often look like endings in disguise. Break to build. That's where the real strength lives. We often wait for the perfect moment to change. We wait to feel ready. We wait to feel motivated. We wait for inspiration to strike like lightning. But the truth is, if you wait for motivation, you'll wait forever. Because motivation is fleeting. It's unreliable. It shows up when it wants to and disappears just when you need it most. If your path to success depends on how you feel in the moment, you'll quit the second things get hard, and they'll get hard. This is why discipline matters more. Discipline is what shows up when motivation doesn't. Discipline doesn't care if you're tired, if you're frustrated, or if you'd rather do something else. Discipline is a decision. A quiet, steady decision to keep going even when the spark is gone. Too many people believe that successful individuals are endlessly motivated, that they bounce out of bed every morning energized and excited to chase their goals. But that's a myth. The most successful people you admire don't succeed because they're constantly motivated. They succeed because they're consistent. They've built systems around who they want to be, not how they feel today. Discipline is freedom. It sounds contradictory, but it's true. When you create structure for yourself, when you build habits and rituals that align with your values, you free yourself from the chaos of indecision. You free yourself from being at the mercy of your moods. You no longer have to wonder, should I do this today? Because the decision has already been made. You just show up. That's where confidence comes from. Not from accomplishments or awards, but from keeping promises to yourself. Every time you follow through, even when it's hard, you prove to yourself that you can be trusted. That you're someone who does what they say they'll do. And that belief becomes unshakable over time. But discipline doesn't mean being rigid. It doesn't mean punishing yourself. It means creating habits that support your growth and setting up your life to serve your highest purpose. It means designing daily rituals that anchor you, that center you, and that remind you of who you're becoming, not just what you're trying to achieve. And rituals don't have to be complicated. In fact, the simpler the better. A 5-minute morning routine of silence or journaling, a consistent bedtime that protects your rest, a habit of reaching out to one person a day to stay connected. These small, repeatable actions compound. Over time, they create a rhythm. And in that rhythm, you find strength. Because the days you feel tired will come. The days you feel like quitting will come. But if you've built habits that are stronger than your excuses, you'll keep going. That's the difference between wishful thinking and real transformation. There's nothing glamorous about it. No one claps for you when you choose to take a walk instead of scrolling your phone. No one hands out awards for reading 10 pages of a book each night. But these are the things that shape you. These are the choices that build character. These are the invisible bricks that form the foundation of a meaningful life. Motivation is emotional. And when you're rebuilding yourself for success, you need intention more than emotion, because emotions fluctuate. They're reactive. They respond to weather, to sleep, to news, to the way someone looked at you this morning. But intention is rooted in values. It's anchored in purpose. It's aligned with your why. And when you marry intention with structure, you become unstoppable. Not in the loud, aggressive way we often see portrayed, but in the quiet, focused, unshakable way that actually lasts. That's what discipline gives you. Staying power. There's a quote that says, "We don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems." And that's true. You can have the most inspiring vision in the world, but if your daily habits don't support that vision, it stays a dream. That's why you must design your life to reflect who you want to become, not just in moments of motivation, but in moments of fatigue, doubt, and distraction. Ask yourself, what would my life look like if I simply did what I said I would do consistently? What if I made my bed every morning as a symbol of order? What if I drank water before reaching for coffee as a reminder to care for my body? What if I wrote for 10 minutes a day, even on the days I had nothing to say? Small things, but powerful things. Because success isn't built in massive leaps. It's built in quiet steps, repeated faithfully over time. It's built in the hours no one sees. It's built in the discipline to keep going even when the progress feels invisible. And here's the secret. The more you show up, the more motivation starts to show up too. Not because it magically returns, but because it follows action. Action generates momentum. And momentum, over time, creates a sense of purpose. But you don't wait for that to happen. You build it step by step, habit by habit. You don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight. You just need to start with one habit, one ritual, one promise to yourself. And then keep that promise, not perfectly, but consistently. Eventually, you'll look back and realize you've become someone different, someone stronger, someone more focused, not because you were motivated every day, but because you were disciplined enough to show up anyway. That's how you rebuild yourself for success, not in grand gestures, but in the quiet commitment to keep showing up, to do the work, especially when it's hard, to live by design, not by default. Because when you learn to trust discipline over motivation, you don't just build habits, you build a life. And that's where real success begins. Rebuilding yourself is not something you can do alone. Not entirely. Yes, the work begins with you. Yes, the commitment must come from within. But the people around you shape your progress in ways you may not even realize. We like to believe we're independent, that we make our own choices unaffected by those around us. But the truth is, we are deeply influenced by conversations, by energy, by expectations. Whether we evolve or remain stuck often comes down to one critical question. Who's in your circle? The people you surround yourself with don't just reflect your present, they project your future. Think about that for a second. Who you listen to, who you spend time with, who you seek approval from, those people influence your habits, your mindset, your courage, and your clarity. They either call you higher or pull you sideways. They either challenge your growth or comfort your stagnation. And it happens slowly, subtly. That's why you must be intentional. When you're rebuilding yourself for success, you're vulnerable. You're shedding old layers. You're stepping into unfamiliar territory. And in that space, you need people who see the version of you you're becoming not just the version of you they remember. Because not everyone will want you to change, not everyone will understand your evolution, and that's okay. They don't have to. But you have to protect the space around you like your future depends on it. Because it does. This doesn't mean cutting people off harshly or walking away with resentment. It means learning the difference between connections that empower and those that drain. It means asking, does this relationship add clarity or confusion to my life? It means recognizing when you've outgrown conversations that no longer feed your growth. We often hold on to relationships out of loyalty to our past, even when they no longer align with our future. But loyalty is not the same as obligation. You can be grateful for people who are part of your journey without inviting them into your next chapter. Rebuilding means making those hard decisions, not from a place of arrogance, but from a place of responsibility. You are responsible for your energy, for your environment, for your evolution, because your environment is not neutral. It either supports your change or it undermines it. If you're trying to become more disciplined, but everyone around you makes fun of structure or encourages distraction, that matters. If you're trying to think bigger, but your circle only talks about surviving, not thriving, that matters. If you're trying to believe in yourself, but your peers constantly remind you of your old failures, that matters. We grow in community. We thrive in the presence of others who believe in us, even on the days we don't believe in ourselves. When you surround yourself with people who hold you accountable to your potential, not your comfort, you accelerate your progress. You begin to rise to meet the standard they reflect back at you. Sometimes one powerful voice in your life is enough to change everything. One mentor who sees beyond your doubt. One friend who challenges your excuses with compassion. One partner who reminds you what you're capable of when you've forgotten. These voices become anchors, not to weigh you down, but to ground you in truth. But these voices don't just appear. You must seek them, you must choose them. You must build your circle with the same care and clarity you'd use to build your home. Because in many ways, that's what your circle becomes. A home for your mindset. A place where your ideas live and grow. A place where your identity is either reinforced or reimagined. So ask yourself, who are you talking to every day? Who are you allowing to shape your perspective? Who are you vulnerable with? And most importantly, do these people inspire the best in you or simply accept the most familiar in you? This doesn't mean surrounding yourself with people who only agree with you. Quite the opposite. The right circle will challenge you, push you, disagree with you, but always from a place of love, not ego. They won't coddle your limitations, they'll confront them. Not to shame you, but to help you rise above them. These are the people who don't just cheer for you when you win, but walk with you when you struggle. They remind you of who you are when you're tempted to forget. You don't need 100 of these people, you need a handful. People who reflect your values, your vision, and your standards. People who are also growing, evolving, building something meaningful. Not perfect people, but intentional people. Because when you're surrounded by others on a growth path, you normalize effort, you normalize discipline, you normalize excellence, and suddenly the things that once felt out of reach become part of your daily life. The wrong circle will cost you years. The right circle will save you decades. They'll help you skip lessons they've already learned. They'll help you avoid mistakes they've made. They'll open doors not because you asked, but because they believe in what you're building. So if you're serious about rebuilding yourself for success, take a hard, honest look at your circle, not through a lens of judgment, but through a lens of clarity. Ask yourself, does this connection reflect who I was or who I want to be? And then act accordingly. Sometimes the most powerful growth decision you'll ever make is not what you do, but who you do it with. Because no matter how strong your willpower is, your environment will always win. You can't outperform your surroundings forever. So build a circle that lifts you, that stretches you, that reminds you why you started. In the end, success isn't just about what you accomplish. It's about who you become. And who you become is directly shaped by who you're around every day. Choose wisely. Surround to evolve. Because your future is too important to leave in the hands of proximity. Choose people who help you rise. We live in a world obsessed with outcomes. Promotions, titles, metrics, applause. We chase these external markers of success, believing they will make us feel whole, fulfilled, validated. But the truth is, achievement without alignment is empty. You can reach the top of the ladder and realize it was leaning against the wrong wall the entire time. That's why when you're rebuilding yourself for success, the question is not what do I want to achieve, but who do I want to be? And the answer always begins with your values. Your values are not just abstract ideas. They are the internal compass that guide your decisions, shape your behaviors, and determine your fulfillment. When you know what you stand for, deeply, truly, unapologetically, you lead from within. You don't chase trends. You don't imitate others. You build a life that feels like your own. The challenge is, many people have never taken the time to define their core values. They drift, pulled in every direction by what others expect, by what society praises, by what looks good on paper. And then one day they look around and don't recognize themselves. They're successful by every external measure, but internally they feel lost. That's not failure. That's misalignment. Real success is not a destination, it's a direction. It's a way of walking through the world with integrity. When your choices reflect your values, you experience something rare, peace. Not the peace that comes from comfort or control, but the peace that comes from congruence, from knowing that what you do and who you are match. To lead from within, you must be radically honest with yourself. What do you believe in? What are your non-negotiables? What are the principles you refuse to compromise on, even if it costs you opportunities, applause, or approval? These are not easy questions. They require reflection. They require courage. Because once you name your values, you are responsible for living them. And yes, there will be moments when that's difficult, when taking a stand means standing alone, when staying true to yourself means disappointing others. But the cost of abandoning your values is always higher than the cost of defending them. Every time you betray what you believe for a short-term gain, you erode your sense of self. And nothing is more dangerous than succeeding at the expense of who you really are. You don't rebuild from the outside in, you rebuild from the inside out, brick by brick, decision by decision, habit by habit. You align your calendar with your convictions. You align your conversations with your principles. You align your ambition with your purpose. And slowly, something powerful happens. You begin to trust yourself again. That trust is everything. Because in moments of uncertainty, and there will be many, you won't always have clear answers, but you will have clear values. And those values become your anchor. They keep you grounded when things get chaotic. They help you make tough decisions without losing your sense of identity. They remind you that success is not just about doing more, it's about becoming more. We often admire people who have presence, who walk into a room and seem calm, confident, authentic. That presence doesn't come from charisma, it comes from clarity. When you know who you are and what you stand for, you stop performing. You start connecting. You speak with conviction because you're not trying to impress, you're trying to express something true. And when you lead from that place, others feel it. People are drawn to those who are anchored in something deeper than success, something real, something rooted. That's the kind of leadership the world needs more of. Not louder voices, but truer voices. Not more information, but more integrity. This isn't about perfection. You'll make mistakes, you'll contradict yourself, you'll fall short of your values at times. It's human. But when you lead from within, you own those moments. You reflect, you realign, you apologize when necessary, not to protect your image, but to protect your integrity. Rebuilding yourself means returning to your foundation. It means stripping away the noise and rediscovering what matters most, not what's popular, not what's profitable, what's meaningful. Because meaning is what sustains you. It's what keeps you going when the path gets hard, when the outcome is uncertain, when the reward feels far away. When you live in alignment with your values, you stop needing permission. You stop needing constant validation. You stop chasing every opportunity because not every opportunity is aligned. You develop the courage to say no, not out of fear, but out of clarity. And you learn to say yes, not out of pressure, but out of purpose. And something extraordinary begins to happen. People start trusting you. Not just because of what you achieve, but because of how you achieve it. Because you don't cut corners, because you do what you say you'll do, because you live what you speak. That kind of consistency builds credibility. And credibility over time becomes influence. Influence is not about control. It's not about being the loudest or smartest person in the room. Influence is about alignment. When your actions match your words and your words match your beliefs, people listen, not because you forced them to, but because they feel safe in your presence, safe to be honest, safe to grow, safe to follow. That's what leading from within creates. Not just personal success, but cultural impact. You give others permission to be authentic. You invite them to connect with their own values. And in doing so, you multiply your impact beyond anything you could have done alone. So if you're serious about rebuilding yourself for success, don't start with a goal. Start with your values. Write them down, reflect on them, share them, and then live them, especially when it's hard. Because that's when they matter most. In a world full of noise, be someone who lives with clarity. In a world full of pressure, be someone who leads with integrity. And in a world that's constantly changing, be someone who stays grounded in something timeless, your values. That's how you lead from within. That's how you rebuild a life worth living. And that's how you redefine success on your terms.